so much. So before starting with the talk, I'd like to thank the entire team of GSTS for placing their trust in me, and obviously Manish sir for entrusting me with this opportunity. And without further ado, I would straight away jump onto my talk. I'm sharing my presentation. Kindly let me know if you can see it. Is this visible?
Yes, Muskaan, it is visible.
Okay. So the topic that I will be talking about today is Digiplomacy, that is the digitalization of diplomacy. And as I've already been introduced, I'm a research scholar currently at the Department of African Studies, University of Delhi. And my background is, I have done my bachelor's in political science from Lady Shriram College for Women, University of Delhi. And last year I completed my master's in political science from Hindu College, University of Delhi. And I also hold a junior research fellowship in political science. And the topic that I'm currently working around is very similar to what I'll be presenting today. It's just that I'll be focusing more on Africa in terms of my research, but today we'll be talking about a generalized point of view about what do we even mean by digital diplomacy, or like a general outlook as to how countries are doing with respect to diplomacy. So let's start with the agenda for the session today. We'll be talking about the prime objectives, followed by the meaning of the terminology. Then we'll see how this entire digitalization has evolved, what has been the timeline, what has been the trajectory. Then we will talk about why has it become the norm today? Why are we even talking about this in today's session? Then we'll be focusing on certain specific cases about different countries, how they are embracing digital diplomacy. And we have also incorporated certain contemporary issues that all of us must have been aware about. Then obviously it is not just an entire rosy picture. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of pitfalls that comes with digital diplomacy. So we'll discuss about that and the way ahead about this entire phenomenon of digitalization of diplomacy. So the objectives for this will be to understand the concept. Then we'll also talk about what are the power dynamics which are inherent in digital diplomacy. We will see डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी कैसे कहाँ फॉरेन पॉलिसी में एक रोल प्ले कर रही है, कैसे रेगुलेट कर रही है फॉरेन पॉलिसी को, कैसे कंस्ट्रेन कर रही है फॉरेन पॉलिसी को. वील ऑल्सो सी कि क्या एक ट्रेडिशनल डिप्लोमेसी प्रैक्टिस से कोई चेंज आया है जब से सोशल मीडिया हैज बिकम द न्यू नॉर्म, एंड या फिर एक स्टेटस को चल रहा है कि जैसे ट्रेडिशनल डिप्लोमेसी होती थी वैसे ही डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी हो रही है. We'll also look at the opportunities and challenges that digital diplomacy has presented, how social media is, shaping and resetting the entire culture of diplomacy. So all of these will be our prime objectives. So to begin with, what do we even mean by diplomacy? So whenever we talk about diplomacy in international relations primarily involve, different states interacting with each other to avoid armed confrontation, to resolve conflicts. And therefore, diplomacy serves as a very pertinent foreign policy tool. And now with the coming of globalization, with information communication technology, this entire practice of diplomacy has undergone a huge change. Now, this transition has challenged traditional focus, जो सिर्फ, economic issues पे होता था, material issues पे होता था. Now, we are talking about a lot of normative issues, a lot of focus is on perception, how ideas are being transmitted, because social media has come into picture. And this specific era is also called as the age of the naked diplomat, because diplomats have to put out everything, whatever they are doing. After every session, after every talk, a picture has to be posted. Otherwise, it will be considered that it's probably not even done. That is how much social media has become relevant today. So, let's briefly discuss about this term of digiplomacy or digitalization of diplomacy, because terminology is a key aspect. So it officially was first being employed in 2015, and it is simultaneously called as e-diplomacy or techplomacy, cyber diplomacy, digiplomacy, digital diplomacy. But overall, if we see, it generally refers to use of digital medium, social media platforms to conduct your foreign policy goals. So that is like the brief statement that is generally given that, okay, this is what digital diplomacy is. But it is a very broad definition. And इसमें social media sites भी आ सकती हैं, इसमें Wikipedia pages भी आ सकते हैं, इसमें virtual embassies का phenomenon भी आ सकता है. So it is very important to arrive at a very consistent, coherent definition. So first, the point is to be noted that digital diplomacy is not just like a type of diplomacy. It is not like bilateral diplomacy. It is not like culinary diplomacy or sports diplomacy. Because आज की डेट में पूरा अगर हम फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्री देखें, हर डिपार्टमेंट ऑलमोस्ट डिजिटाइज हो चुका है. So it is not just one type of diplomacy. So this is one point that we need to know. Secondly, this specific term also creates a dichotomy that कुछ फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्रीज डिजिटल हो चुकी हैं और कुछ ऐसी फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्रीज हैं which are still non-digital. But this is not correct because अगर हम देखें as per the UN data, around 90% of the UN member states are in some way or the other digitally present today. Thirdly, digital diplomacy is mostly used as synonymously with the social media usage of Western European and American foreign ministries. But this is a complete misnomer because digital diplomacy is not at all a Western phenomenon. Because if we see, African foreign ministries have been using online consular aid ever since in 2013. For instance, Kenya used Twitter to evacuate its citizens from South Sudan in 2013, which is years ahead of what other countries are doing. Asian countries are now fully using social media to present about their culture. Then even the Indian Foreign Ministry has launched a very sophisticated app. You can see that on the screen, which is accessible to its citizens, to the foreign public, to the diaspora, and is very relevant if we see. Other than that, even Arab states like Saudi Arabia, they are now legitimizing the use of social media and online presence for their foreign policy interventions. So the term that is much more relevant, as it has been upheld by different scholars like Elon Maynor and Cornelia Jola as well, is digitalization of diplomacy. Why digitalization? Digitalization का मतलब होता है एक long term process जब धीरे धीरे ministries digital tools adopt कर रही हैं. So it is not a sudden transformation that has come about, but a slow and steady, a gradual transformation that has come about. So the term digitalization of diplomacy becomes much more relevant when we use digiplomacy. So it is a long-term process where different digital technologies are now reshaping norms. They are reshaping values that operate in international relations. So every foreign ministry is slowly, transforming digitally, and all of these are dependent on certain factors: their geography, their own national interests, or whatever their national goals are, and then whatever specific needs they have. Based on that wavelength, they are, identifying how much and how fast they have to digitalize. Now, we will see how do we actually trace the evolution of this particular phenomenon. So we now nearly have like a 20 years of experience in the digital realm. And when we see how certain events have happened, it is in 1984 that a book on public diplomacy in the computer age was first time published by the US Information Agency. And that is the time when, technology was sort of incorporated in international relations, foreign policy for that matter. In 1992, a similar thing happened where green activists, they were mobilizing around their Earth Summit using emails. In 1994, emails on economic diplomacy was shared between Bill Clinton and Carl Bildt. And 2000s obviously saw the emergence of so many social media platforms. We've seen Wikipedia, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and more recently Instagram and TikTok has also come about. And it was in early 2000s itself that African governments also started setting up their e-government systems in line with global trends. So we can see it is not just a Western phenomenon. It has been happening in different regions of the globe. So this was the few events that happened. But if we talk about the official institutional adoption of digitalization, that we see in 2008. And most scholars agree that digitalization sort of began in 2008 when Sweden launched its virtual embassy. And this is a very innovative concept, virtual embassy. So it was accessible to anyone who had a computer, and they could literally participate in the cultural events. They could meet the Swedish artists virtually, or they could even visit virtual art exhibitions. So this was a very interesting phenomenon that happened in 2008. Then in 2011, as you can see on the screen, US had launched a virtual embassy for Iran because there were no American diplomats which were physically present in Iran because of the conflictual relationship. So State Department used this particular website to interact with the Iranian users so that they could convey to them what policies they are bringing or how they are operating in the Middle East. So this was one such use. Then obviously Arab Spring was one such, huge shift that came about in digitalization, because most of the mobilizations happened via social media. And that's when even diplomats realized that social media is not just a cause of the conflict, it can be used as a tool to know or to anticipate क्या फ्यूचर में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स आ सकते हैं, या क्या फ्यूचर में, या व्हाट आर द इश्यूज दैट द पीपल आर फेसिंग राइट नाउ, कि क्या हम ऑलरेडी उसको एंटिसिपेट करके उस पर वर्क कर सकते हैं. Then a very interesting thing happened in 2015 that Germany sort of tweeted that Russia has been expelled from G8, and that happened via a tweet. And that you can see on the screen, hashtag G7 call on Russia to de-escalate conflict in Crimea. And they bypassed all, standard protocols of meetings, journalist information and everything, and straight away posted this tweet, and it shook the entire world that, okay, Russia is now out of G8. And that is how much importance a tweet hold. Because there are often questions that not major decisions can be taken via social media, but this is one such example that shows that, okay, there are things that have happened using social media. So then by 2016, most of the countries like Canada, Poland, Norway, they were launching their own smartphone applications. Canada had a travel warning app that sort of allowed Canadian citizens to access real-time travel information. So this is like the brief timeline that we should know about. So if we see 2015 से 2020 के बीच में काफी changes आए, जिसकी वजह से this entire digitalization का जो process था काफी ज्यादा adopt किया गया by foreign ministries. And अब वो सिर्फ citizens से बात करने के लिए social media use नहीं कर रहे थे. Arab Spring के बाद इसको use किया जा रहा था to detect, to stop the misinformation campaigns, या कोई propaganda, fake news, all of that things were now their main focus. They were not just engaging with citizens by using social media. Other than that, a lot of technology also, started being adopted. So a very recent, a personal example that I would like to share is what was that one moment when I became so interested in this topic was that I was randomly scrolling LinkedIn, and I happened to follow a lot of foreign ministry pages of different countries. So this video sort of popped out, and there was the Israel ambassador to India who was speaking in fluent Hindi and was wishing a particular festival to all the Indians. And it took me a second to realize that it was not actually him. It was an AI-enabled version of the ambassador जो बहुत fluent हिंदी में Indians को wish कर रहे थे. And that is the role that AI, big data, and all these, emerging technologies playing a part in, and diplomacy में intertwine हो चुका है, and we cannot really escape it now. It is just a few more years that we'll know what is the extent of the use of technology and the mixture of technology and diplomacy. So this was one such thing that amazed me, and I wanted to study more about this topic. So this particular intersection we can see from this particular example. Now, we cannot say that digitalization एक isolated process है, ministries के अंदर हो रहा है, offline events, external events से इसका कोई लेना देना नहीं है. We cannot really say that, because digitalization is highly influenced by external events. So there are a few examples that we should be aware about. Israel has established a particular code writing unit to respond to whatever hate speeches or anti-Semitic attacks that have been happening. A similar thing was created by UK to counter whatever, a lot of news, a lot of opinions or people manipulating information was out there when Brexit was happening. So they established a specific unit to counter that. A similar thing was done by Lithuania to basically counter Russian disinformation campaigns. So whatever online developments are happening, they are very much interlinked with external events. So if we basically summarize why are we digitizing per se, it is because we have seen that in COVID, how even those countries which were not that digital, they had to come online because that was the only way to sort of stay connected with the world. So it has enabled virtual meetings. It has enabled, much more transparency, accessibility. It has given people a platform to actually engage in foreign policy discussions. If somebody has tweeted, they can come, they can write their opinion, they can repost it, they can reply it. So that is how social media has become important in terms of diplomacy. Now we'll see what have been those particular pointers that led to some important case studies अगर हम देखेंगे आगे कि वो कंट्रीज ऑनलाइन आई ही क्यों, वो क्या एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन था कि यूएस को लगा दैट ओके नाउ डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी इज इम्पोर्टेंट और इंडिया को लगा फॉर दैट मैटर इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. सो हर फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्री का अपना एक रीजन रहा है पाथ डिजिटलाइजेशन का परस्यू करने के लिए एंड बहुत सारे अलग अलग फैक्टर्स है जो हमने पहली बात कर ली है. सो अगर हम यूएस स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट की बात करें, उनका जो मेजरली माइग्रेशन हुआ था ऑनलाइन, वो एक डिजायर था कि हमें मुस्लिम इंटरनेट यूजर्स से एंगेज करना है, स्पेशली आफ्टर द वॉर ऑन टेरर. एडिशनली ओबामा एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन वांटेड कि उनके डिफरेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स डिजिटाइज हो जाए फॉर द ईज ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. सो ये मेजरली दो रीजंस थे. न्यूजीलैंड का बहुत सिंपल रीजंस था दैट मोस्ट ऑफ इट्स allies were doing it, so it followed the route of US and UK. If we talk about Norway and Finland, ये basically social media use करना चाह रहे थे अपना whatever models of governance they have been employing, how successful it has been. They wanted to show it to the world and they wanted to manage their ties with the different media outlets as well. Lithuania हमने already पढ़ लिया है, वो Russian disinformation campaigns को majorly counter करने के लिए online आए. If we talk about Poland, it is very interesting because इनका main focus हमेशा से रहा है image management का. They want कि उन्हें थोड़ा dissociate करके देखा जाए World War II की stories से. They want a new kind of a Poland to finally come out. And if we talk about India, our prime focus has been to use digital tools to strengthen our ties with, the diaspora that is spread across the world. So our main thing has been to connect with the diaspora. Then if we see certain African countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda, their use of digital tools has also been more focused towards building relationship with their diaspora. It has sort of helped them to expand their national boundaries. It has acted as a tool to expand national boundaries, to develop that emotional bond again with their diaspora. So there are so many Facebook groups that are operating, and now there are so many online events that they can directly take part in, which happens via the embassies. So this has been a mode to expand their national boundary, to incorporate these diasporas back again into the national consciousness. So that has been the approach of the African countries. Now I think this is the most interesting part where we will see how certain countries have been employing digital diplomacy. And most of us must have seen it, but now we will use a lens of international relations that, okay, this is why this was happening. So let's start with Israel. So if we look at some years back when the Gaza conflict actually started, they literally used the official Twitter spokesman account to announce their military actions and to engage with their adversaries. So they were doing it all out on Twitter. And a very interesting instance happened in 2018 when Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, he expressed his views on Twitter. और उन्होंने एक ट्वीट किया, उन्होंने कहा इजराइल इज लाइक अ मैलिग्नेंट कैंसरस ट्यूमर जिसे वेस्ट एशिया से जितना जल्दी हो सके इरेडिकेट कर देना चाहिए. एंड इसका रिस्पॉन्स एवरीबडी थॉट विल बी वेरी ब्रूटल, but Israel took a very sarcastic response to it and they shared a GIF from the film called Mean Girls, जिसमें Regina George, she's like a queen bee, जो कह रही है why are you so obsessed with me? So वो clearly humor को एक strategic maneuver tool की तरह use करता है Israel, and इस उनके particular approach को हज़बारा term भी दिया जाता है, which is generally इसका मतलब public diplomacy होता है. But Israel has been super active, and if we see some of the recent examples, obviously most of us have seen a lot of unfortunate images, visuals about the portrayal of this entire Israel-Hamas war ever since 2023. And both the sides have been posting a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, as we can see, that how they are labeling all of them as terrorists and how they are raping people, how they are killing innocent children. So this portrayal on social media clearly reflects how they are using this to, trigger emotions in people, to change how they are perceived, and to garner a lot of support. So it is very important if we see now. Then obviously we can talk about Russia. So Russia एक particular doctrine use करता है जिसको हम कहते हैं Gerasimov doctrine, जो कि एक blend है hybrid warfare tactics का social media के साथ, and कुछ propaganda या disinformation को mix किया के they basically do it. Even if today you open the Russian Twitter account, they must have posted something about their historical legacy, because इनका बहुत simple approach है, ये हर दिन एक पुराना वर्ल्ड वॉर के टाइम का पिक्चर या इवन बिफोर दैट डिफरेंट रेवोल्यूशंस के पिक्चर्स निकालते हैं और अपने पुराने हिस्टोरिकल नैरेटिव्स को यूज करते हैं आज जो उनके एक्शंस हो उन्हें जस्टिफाई करने के लिए. सो इनका एक बहुत ही टेलर्ड प्रोपेगेंडा है, ये एक पर्टिकुलर इमेज प्रोजेक्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. As we can see here, how they literally have posted a 1943 image and they are talking about Kiev, and they have attacked it recently as well. So that is how they are justifying that, okay, we did it then, now we are doing it again. So it's not much of a difference. Then obviously we cannot not talk about India here, because there's a huge spike of interest in India's use of digital diplomacy. So हमारा जो major approach रहा है वो एक interactive use रहा है digital tools का, and all of us have seen when our former Foreign Secretary Nirupama Roy used Twitter extensively, and then obviously former Foreign Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj ji was so active, and she was genuinely helping a lot of people. And as you can see that even if you are stuck on Mars, Indian Embassy will be there to help you, and it did help a lot of people. So not just an interactive form, but there's a lot of focus on using different images, and users उसको अलग तरीके से perceive करते हैं. So एक example semiotics का अगर मैं दूं कि आपकी body language या क्या foreign meets हो रही है, अगर हम उन्हें analyze करें तो बहुत सारे ऐसे occasions हुए हैं, जैसे जब Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited India, he was not received by our Prime Minister. And this picture was floated all across social media, and सब कह रहे थे that okay, India-Canada relations are strained now. And all of this was happening in the backdrop of the farm bills. So this sort of leads to a lot of, if not positive, a lot of negative impact as well on the equation of different countries. So there are obviously two sides of the one coin, which we'll see why. So other than that, I think बहुत recent जो हम सब ने experience किया है, be it Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, so many Bollywood, almost every Bollywood actor sort of came in and posted their picture when our Prime Minister shared some of the pictures from Lakshadweep. It was on June 4th. And that is when the online battle started between India and Maldives. Wahan ke 3 junior Maldivian ministers, they reacted in a very offensive manner to these pictures. And that is when the entire outrage started. So if you look at these visuals, these are by the India Today group, that hashtag boycott Maldives, hashtag India out Maldives, these were like two hashtags which were sort of fighting. And if we see Maldives India out hashtag or the visit Maldives hashtag, it was completely overshadowed by the Indian campaign of boycott Maldives. It had around 2.83 lakh posts, while India out hashtag only had around 7,000 posts. So there was a huge engagement and a huge use of social media to portray our soft power, not just the soft power, but to show the support that was being questioned by the Maldivian ministers. A similar thing we can see that this entire negative campaign that started, there was a huge, upsurge in certain terms जो Google search में हमें देखने को मिल रहे थे, कुछ specific term, a lot of search started for Lakshadweep Islands. People wanted to know about their itinerary or what packages they can say. So a lot of interest generated, not just in Lakshadweep, even in Andaman Nicobar Islands. And there was this interesting thing that we can see. There were so many Pakistani social media posts which were supporting Maldives. It could be for different reasons. And Pakistanis, some were announcing that now we will visit Maldives and we will compensate if India is not visiting. So this entire controversy ignited through social media. So we can't really say that diplomacy is completely out of social media now, because we have seen it now. So if we see different, we have seen the application of digital diplomacy through all these cases. But as I've started with, that it is not all very rosy, it's not all good. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of pitfalls. So there are so many security risks that come with digital diplomacy. Information breaches, the instance of WikiLeaks, hacking, anonymity challenge. We do not really know if somebody tweets, and it will take some time to track them, but the entire, rumors start ho chuke hote, and it is very difficult to deal with all of it. Then बहुत ज़्यादा error और misjudgment हो सकता है. During World Economic Forum's 2012 meet, Swedish Foreign Minister, you can see the tweet, this tweet. I could not really find the original tweet, but this is because obviously it was later deleted. So this tweet sort of sparked a lot of, talk around this specific meeting. So बहुत errors और misjudgments हो सकते हैं जब हम social media की बात करते हैं. And एक बहुत important point है that we really don't know जो हमें दिख रहा है वो actually हो रहा है या नहीं. So ambivalence in their public versus private behavior is something जो traditional diplomacy में अगर हम किसी से मिल रहे हैं, personally बैठ के बात कर रहे हैं, वो पता चल सकता था. But now we don't know. If they're smiling in the picture, we will assume, okay, the relationship is great. So one such example which I feel we should know about is the case of Khrushchev. So Nikita Khrushchev, this is not from the time of social media, but he was very, his ambivalent position towards China was one such thing, जो आज के लिए भी important होती है, because publicly he was saying that, okay, we can have great relations with China, it is growing so well. But privately, जब वो Germany के chances से मिले, he did express some hesitation about China. So when it came out in public, people were confused. Leaders across the globe were confused. So this can happen through social media because we really don't know what the real intention of people is जब वो social media पे post कर रहे हैं. Other than that, basic echo chamber of disinformation, गलत information फैल सकती है. And सिर्फ यही नहीं, because we started on with the note that हमारा focus होना चाहिए that we are researching well. So if we talk about digital diplomacy, most of the studies only focus on Western Europe, Northern America, Russia. Recently, थोड़ा spike China studies में देखने को मिला है. Wolf warrior diplomacy, this term has been floating social media. There's growing interest in India also. However, only 2% research around digital diplomacy is focusing on Africa, which is very wrong because they have been the front runners in digital diplomacy. If we talk about very innovative, clear-cut strategies, Uganda has played a huge role in that. Early adopter, South Africa एक earlier adopter रहा है. Innovators, Kenya एक innovator रहा है. So they are very much underrepresented in the research of digital diplomacy. And since we are joined by so many young scholars today, I think we need to notice this point and we need to work towards it. So these were certain limitations around the topic. So if I conclude, if I say that digital diplomacy, even though universal concept लग रहा है, but region specific nuances बहुत जरूरी है. अभी हमने जैसे अफ्रीका की बात की, 54 different countries हैं, 54 different approaches हो सकती हैं digitalize होने की, 54 different stories हो सकती हैं digitalization की. So focus एक typical standard approach follow करने की बजाय diverse approach follow करने का होना चाहिए कि different philosophical, different cultural, different traits हर region के use किए जाएं. एंड रीजन स्पेसिफिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स को ड्रॉ किया जाए. However, डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी अभी बहुत अर्ली स्टेज में है. न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज एवरी डे इवॉल्व हो रही हैं, सो वी कांट रियली से द एग्जैक्ट इम्पैक्ट ये होगा डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी का, because there are so many diplomats which are just coming on social media. So success जो है डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी की, उसका जो आउटकम मेजर करना है वो विद टाइम धीरे धीरे ही होगा. So these are some of the references. So before finally concluding my talk, I would just like to say, earlier, whenever we used to ask that, okay, this is a political contest, which side do you think is going to win? हमारा बेसिक सा आंसर ये होता था, the side with the biggest army would win. But now this is not the case. Now it is the side with the best story that wins. वो साइड जो स्टोरी को पुट अक्रॉस कर सके, जो लोगों का माइंड इन्फ्लुएंस कर सके, वो साइड इज द विनर टुडे. सो किसके हाथ में स्वॉर्ड है ये अब मैटर नहीं करता. द माइंड डिसाइड्स नाउ व्हिच हैंड्स विल बी wielding those swords. So this is why digital diplomacy, public diplomacy, everything is so relevant for today. And with this, I would like to end my talk, and I welcome any questions that you might have.
It was really a great presentation, Muskaan. Very informative presentation, I can say. बहुत ही relevant examples के साथ. So congratulations for your successful talk. And मुझे लगता है कि बहुत कुछ सीखने के लिए भी मिला होगा, बहुत कुछ नई चीजें जानने को मिली. Starting from the your बहुत सारे जो एग्जाम्पल्स थे वहां से लेके चैलेंजेस तक जो हमें दिखता है वो सच में हो रहा है या नहीं. सो बहुत कुछ ऑडियंस को जानने के लिए मिला होगा. सो कुछ क्वेश्चंस, कुछ क्वेरीज है यहाँ पे, मैं वो आपके सामने रखूंगा. आप कोशिश कीजिए उन्हें वो करने की. सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, व्हाट आर सम सक्सेसफुल एग्जांपल्स ऑफ डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी इनिशिएटिव अराउंड द वर्ल्ड?
So if we talk about successful examples, I think the kind of applications, the smartphone applications which are being launched, just like it has been launched by India, it has been very helpful for foreign publics, also for the diaspora as well, and for domestic people who are traveling abroad as well. So smartphone applications is one such thing. Other than that, the community groups that are formed. So that is one thing that is emotionally, bringing back the people to their host countries. They are getting to know about them. They're interested. Okay, elections will happen. We want to know who is in power. So this entire information flow, I think, is a positive thing.
Okay. There is one more question from Shailendra. What are the advantages and challenges of using social media in diplomatic communication?
So I feel this question is more about a difference between traditional way of diplomacy and digital diplomacy. So there is obviously no longer that kind of a privacy that earlier was there in certain aspects. No, everything has to be posted outside. So it is very difficult for countries to maintain, that kind of a secretiveness that is important for certain areas. Almost everything is there. Everything comes out, sab leak ho jata hai. So that is one negative thing. But if we talk about the positive, there is so much about the cultural or the soft power aspects that needs to be out. And because of social media, वो हम बहुत easily, बहुत इन tools को use करके fast, quickly disseminate कर पा रहे हैं. So obviously pros भी हैं, cons भी हैं.
Well answered, Muskaan. There is one more question from Ravi Bishnoi. I will read it. In foreign policy, the process of digitalization such as AI, etc., has increased external influential interventions. Non-traditional threats such as hate speech and cyber attacks have intensified these interventions. How do you see these dimensions?
These are very big challenges, and as I've already spoken about how countries like Lithuania, Latvia, they are constantly trying to protect themselves from the Russian disinformation campaigns. And we obviously had such impacts from the end of China, because of which we had to ban so many social media apps. So it is a huge challenge, but I think a better cyber security infrastructure is something that is required, not just on the personal stage, but also when we talk about national sovereignty.
ओके मुस्कान, बहुत ही खूबसूरती से आपने मतलब सारे सवालों के जवाब दिए। अब आइए जानते हैं कि हमारे जो आज की गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर है।
Manthan, you are having one more question by
ओके ओके ओके, सॉरी सॉरी
Mr.
सॉरी।
Yadav, and you are also one more question from your side. So right now, two more questions are there.
ओके सर, वन मोर क्वेश्चन इज फ्रॉम रवि बिश्नोई।
Think one, Mr. Yadav, देखिए.
एक मिनट सर।
Muskaan, if you are getting that question, so
Yes,
he is
I have
very
seen it.
interested.
What role does digitization play in the popularity of Prime Minister Modi as a leader on the world stage? I think this is the question. So when
Yes.
when I spoke about the entire India Maldives issue, it sparked off with Prime Minister Modi's pictures, and those were very aesthetic pictures that were clicked on the beach. And I think he is a dynamic personality when it comes to social media, and there are so many reels that are coming about. People are making it, and in fact their official pages are posting it. So he is promoting India as much as he can, and obviously there are not just the positive aspects to it, there are a lot of negative aspects to it as well, but he is truly a digital ambassador, I feel, right now.
ओके मुस्कान, एंड बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन था, इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन था, पूछना रह गया था। एंड इसके बाद और एक क्वेश्चन है जो हमारी तरफ से हम अपने स्पीकर्स को पूछते हैं कि आपका जीएसटीएस के साथ एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा, उसके बारे में अगर आप कुछ शेयर कर सकें।
I think this was my first official experience of giving a talk. I've always been on the other side, being a student, attending such talks. And I always thought that how does it even feel to speak in front of so many people? I was very nervous about answering a lot of questions. But I think if you're well researched, you're well studied about a topic, this is a form of a discussion. And there were actually literally very interesting questions that I feel now I can incorporate in my study. And I think it was an amazing opportunity, and I really feel that it grows to no bounds, and you guys continue to, grow and rise, and very grateful for the opportunity.
थैंक यू मुस्कान, हमें बहुत खुशी है कि आप हमारे साथ जुड़ी इस प्लेटफॉर्म के थ्रू। एंड अब आइए जानते हैं कि हमारे जो आज की गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर है मिस लेमी सेकिया मैम, उनसे कि उनको आपका टॉक जो है वो कैसा लगा। So ma'am, please come and give your remarks on Muskan's talk.
Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate Muskaan for such a beautifully articulated presentation. She has covered all the domain of diplomacy, like challenges, evolution, challenges, future prospect. Also, I must appreciate one point. You concluded your presentation through the point that there should not be any unicentric approach of digitalization. There should be region specific. Okay, so yeah, it was a good point. And one thing I would like to add on that we all have seen a common phenomena, that is COVID-19 pandemic. So at that point of time also, how the digital platform has been used, for maintaining the diplomatic relationship between the different countries. Okay, so yeah, in concluding remarks, I would like to say that every phenomena has two sides, like one is positive and one is negative. And for these phenomena also, we have negative challenges, we have negative circumstances, but we need to address this, for the better future prospects. And thank you so much for the, to the whole GSTS team, and thank you, Manisa, for inviting me for this session as a guest of honor. Thank you so much. And I'd like to say about the GSTS team that if we talk about the academic field, this talk, discussion, presentations, these are the crucial element of academic field. So this GSTS platform provide a great opportunity for the young scholar to discuss on diverse range of topic, because I have attending this GS tuition for like around 1.5 years. So I have seen diverse range of topic from health to mental health, from environment to climate science, politics, women, gender law. Diverse range of topic has been covered by different young scholars. So their GSTS job is really commendable. I must appreciate this. And once again, thank you so much to the whole GSTS team, and thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for encouraging and inspiring us. Now, moving forward, let me introduce our next speaker for the next session.